All right, so we're kind of moving into part 2 of this demo. I'm just going to continue to work on my painting here. I'm adding the shadows right now, but it looks like I'm going to have to mix some more shadow color because I ran out when I was doing my background. So that means I'm mixing red with a shade with black to get a shade of red. So I'm going to scoop up the remaining red, and I might even put it in the same pile here so I can use that pile to compare. Make sure that I'm trying to get the same shade. Remember, as soon as that paint dries, it gets a little bit darker, so you might want to mix it a smidge lighter than what you see on your palette. I'm also making sure I get all that paint from the top of the brush, head of the brush, into my mix. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to switch back to my small brush. Alright, so we had talked about having your original image. You can either print it out and have it next to you, or you can have your computer screen on and have that image pulled up. Alright, so I'm going to continue with my painting. I'll put my palette up here so you guys can see it. So I'm just adding the shadows in. I'm looking at my photo and I'm also looking at my outlines. I have a little bit of a nostril shadow here, and a tiny little shadow along the edge of the nose. Gave everybody slightly different shaped brushes too. When you get more advanced in painting, you're going to learn about which brushes you should be using for what types of line work you're trying to paint. If you've ever been into a art store, you might notice that there's a lot of different variation in the size and shape of brushes, and they all have served some type of purpose. So for this smaller detail work, it's good to have a small round brush or a small brush that has a little bit of an edge to it. Yes, Ovia?
Instead of like paper towels, can I have like a washcloth?
Sure. The paint might not wash out of it though. I just want you to know it probably won't wash out of it. So it's gonna have to be like a permanent paint washcloth.
Okay.
I'm gonna save the hair till last because I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be kind of like wispy. So I'm painting all of the shadow pieces on the face first. And then I'll go back in and do the shadow pieces on the hair. My black paint is creeping down there. I need to purchase one of those booms or those webcam stands so that I'm not using these stools that are just getting in my way. Alright, there's not very many dark shadows on Beck's face here. There's only a few on the side and in his nostrils and on his upper lip, so I don't have too much. I do have quite a bit of it in his jacket here. It looks like he has like a jacket, a coat on with some lapels that might be like a velvet or a dark tuxedo kind of jacket. Make sure to get those cheekbones in there if you've got a person with cheekbones. So as you're starting your painting, we're going to be posting whips of it too because I want to see your progress and offer you any advice. This might be the first time any of you have done a sort of a formal painting in mixed paint. So you might get the paint, you might turn into a painter after this. You might get the painting bug. So he has a pretty deep shadow under his chin here, but I don't want it to bleed into his jaw, so I'm going to make a creative choice to not fill that in too much. I don't want him to look like he has a double chin. He doesn't. He's a very skinny person. I'm almost done with my shadows here. Again, I'm outlining and then I'm filling in and I'm thinking about texture as I'm painting. So what is the texture of the thing I'm painting? Is it smooth? Is it hairy? Does it have a variation in direction of the brush stroke? Now remember, this is just your underpainting. This is not the finished painting. You fill this all in with color for the first time, you are not done with your painting. It is just the first coat. And painters that do oil painting, they'll spend months and months or maybe even years layering and layering and layering their paint until they're happy with the way it looks. And a lot of painters are sort of experts on they might put a thick coat of paint on the first time and then mix a medium into the second coat that's sort of transparent, so you can see the first coat of paint underneath the second coat of paint. So there's a lot of really interesting techniques that you can learn when you're mixing paint and learning how to paint. Put some shadow in here. So if you're finding when you're doing your painting that maybe you didn't draw enough shapes and you're missing some detail, feel free to kind of go a little bit rogue and paint some more shapes in there, or some textures that you hadn't already planned. That's part of the creative process, is to make assessments as you're working. Decide, well, you know what, I don't like that, or I like that and I'm going to do that again over here. You have to make creative choices as you're working. So this is the tricky part. There are some shadows in his eye. Of course, the pupil is dark. And then he also has a dark ring around the outer rim of his iris. He has blue eyes, so the inside is going to be light, like a medium tone with a couple flecks of highlight. And then you put a little bit of dark in the corner of the eye, and then of course the eyelashes. He doesn't have makeup on, or he might because he's a musician and this is a professional photo shoot, so even males in this scenario probably have some kind of makeup on to enhance their features. But I'm just going to put the shadows in the creases, but I'm probably going to have to go over this again, the last thing I do, and do the detail in the eyes again, because it's going to get kind of scumbly, messed up looking after I go back and add the medium tone and the highlight on top of the dark. So I'm painting right over my lead pencil here, sort of outlining in a sense. And I need to mix even more red because I need to do some shadow in the hair before I move on to my medium tones. So the more smaller shapes you create when you're doing this, the more complicated your painting is going to be. Nathan, are you working on your painting? Okay, so I should see you guys, if you're on camera, I should see you actively painting and working on it. Okay, we're not doing computer work right now, we're working on our paintings and our value scales. And we're posting them at the end of class. it looks like I need a little bit more shadow mixed. So it's good to know the first time you kind of go in and start painting, gosh, I needed twice as much of that shadow color. Next time I go in and do that, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to go in and mix a lot more than I did the first time. But I realize you guys only have a limited amount, right? Because you bought these smaller tubes, so you have to be a little bit conservative with your paint. You don't want to waste it. Here's a trick though. If you mix a bunch of paint on your palette and you don't want it to go to waste, you can put some saran wrap over it and it'll save it. It'll dry it out a little bit, but for the most part it will save. Okay, so I got a lot of my maroon here. And I'm going to go in and I feel like that's not dark enough. I need a little bit more black. Just a smidge. Oof. Remember when you're washing your brush off to always do the paper towel, because you don't want that water in your paint. Okay, here we go. Here is the maroon I was looking for. I needed quite a bit more black. Okay, so now I have enough to maybe even do a second coat when I'm ready for it. But I made this for the hair, so this is going to be the fun part because his hair is really feathery. There's lots of shadow up here. There's some shadow. There's actually some shadow on his forehead I need to capture here first. And then this is going to be wispy. And I'm going to layer my medium tones and my highlights over top of this shadow. So I'm only looking in the areas that are dark. Dark, dark, dark. So usually like the tip or the roots. The ear is right here. There's shadow on the ear, and then I'm going to make that ear a little smaller.
Miss Granger, I have a question.
Sure.
How do you make orange?
Red and yellow.
You.
You're welcome. So these lines look pretty thick for the shadow, but I'm going to go over top of them with the medium tone and the highlight, so it'll make them look a little thinner when I'm done with all the coats. This is the more expressive line, right? It feels less paint by numbers. I might put a little tiny little ridge of a shadow line right there. Just a little bit.
Miss Granger?
Mm-hmm.
So you know how I restarted mine? Because I wanted to do the Disney Castle, but it was too hard.
This Julia? I'm listening. You still there?
Those.
Oh, you cut out, Julia. I didn't hear the first part of your question. Can you type it in the chat instead?
Miss Granger?
Hang on one second. I think Julia's trying to talk to me. So let's see if we have a... Julia, can you put it in the chat because you're cutting out a lot. Okay, go ahead, Ovia.
Good question. How do you make purple?
Red and blue.
Red and blue? Okay.
Yep. So a good thing to do when you have those questions is to look back on your color wheel. So if you look back on your color wheel, you can figure it out. So here's our color wheel right here. So if we wanted to make purple, we would look at the two, put this in there. If we wanted to make purple, we would look at the two primaries that are next to it. That's how we figure out how to mix colors. So if I wanted to make green, then I know I would look at blue and yellow that are next to it. Okay, so it looks like I'm pretty much ready for my medium tones, which is very exciting. This is when we start to really see our painting come alive, when we start to add the value. All right, so I already have my orange mixed. So here we go. I'm going to probably start with the neck. So this is my medium tone. I'm going to extend my medium tone up to here. But I'm trying to get rid of all of the white of the paper. I don't want any of the white of the paper showing, which is challenging. It's going to be challenging. Trying to make my lines very clean. So the way that I do that is I make sure my brush is loaded up. And when I'm pulling that brush through, it's got enough paint on it to really fill up. Now you might be able to see your pencil through. I did a really dark pencil because I needed you guys to see it through the webcam, but I asked you to use your HB to do the sketches, so your pencils shouldn't be showing up through your paint. It might show up a little bit in the first coat under painting, but it should be gone by the time you do your second coat.
Miss Greninger, like between red and blue, which is a stronger color?
I think blue is stronger in pigment. All right, so my orange dried up a bit, so I need to mix more orange. Now I really should, I'm going to take a push pause here and go clean my water because that's just too red. So something I haven't spoken about yet is how important it is to clean your brushes and your palettes and your containers when you're done with your space. If you leave your brushes sitting out with paint in them, they're going to be ruined. They will be completely stiff and unusable the next day, or probably within an hour. So we absolutely have to wash them. When you wash your brushes, you want to run them under the sink and you want to do this. This is kind of sculpting the brush back into shape. You never want to hit it on the bottom of the sink and do that, because you're going to really bend those bristles out of shape and you won't have that nice shape anymore. Okay, I had to remix my orange here. It must be pretty dry in this room because my paint's dried up real quick. It's probably like that in your homes too, because you probably have the air conditioning on. Alright, so I'm working on my medium tones here. And you're really going to start to see it kind of come to life. I'm still looking at my original photo or my original image. There might be things that I'm missing in my painting that I want to capture. And again, don't rush through this process. It's not something you need to hurry. I mean, we need to turn it in on time because we only have like a week and a couple days left of class, this class. Okay, I want you guys to come back in 5 minutes, and we're going to be taking photos of our value scale and posting.
Miss Greninger,
Mm-hmm.
what if you're not done in 5 minutes?
I'm trying to finish it by the end of the day.
Okay.
I will probably be grading them early next week. But if you finish it late, I'll still regrade it with full credit if it's turned in, you know, a day or two late. That's fine. Alright, so now I'm dropping the medium tones down in. Again, my labeling is really helpful here. I'm still looking at my photo though. It looks like I'm giving him a little mustache, but really all this is a shadow. It's a very faint shadow. So of course your painted image is going to look different than your photo or whatever you're working from, because you're making a work of art that is unique to what you're doing. So you're using your image as a reference, but you're not copying it. I have another one here. Actually, this one I did years ago, and this is something we can do to ours if we feel like it. This one is a John Lennon portrait. It's the same project, but just a different couple. I mean, I don't remember if I put a date on here. No, I didn't. But and we did a black outline after we painted it, and then we added some Ben-Day dots like Roy Lichtenstein did. So we can do that if you want, or we can leave them simpler like this. It's really, I'll leave it up to you guys. It might be just a creative choice, you know, what do you want to do? What do you think is going to look best? Or maybe thematically it goes with your person. You know, maybe the polka dots really wouldn't make sense with your person or your object. So the details are really gonna make a difference here.
Miss Greninger?
Yes.
So if we want, and if we think it would go with our image, can we add it if we want at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
You mean the black outline and the dots?
Yeah.
Yes. In fact,
Sorry, what do you mean by the dots?
Oh, did you see when I shared this?
No.
Okay, so this is the same project, but I just did it a few years ago. And I allowed them to do like a black outline, like a very graphic outline, and then put some Ben-Day dots, which are Roy Lichtenstein thing.
What if you don't want to do the dots?
You don't have to.
Okay.
You can leave it the way you want. You can make it your own style. It's just one way of doing it.
Can you do the black outline without the dots?
Yep. But I would not do the black outline until you've done 2 coats of paint and you're completely done with all your details. That would be like the finishing touches.
Miss Grenninger, can you critique my this? Cause
Sure. What am I? Who's sharing with me right now?
Rowena.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let me pin you so I can see you bigger. Okay. So hold it back a little bit. There you go. And who's your person again?
It's a K-pop star.
Oh right. Okay. I would make his eyes a little smaller. They seem a little out of proportion to his face. So shrink his eyes down a little bit. And then the lines that you have on his face going this way, what do those represent to you?
Oh, those are what did I say? The outlining for the shadows.
Oh, okay. Can you show me the original photo?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's oh, is it a Facebook image? Luina, if it's a Facebook image, I won't be able to open it.
Huh?
If it's a Facebook image, I won't be able to open it.
No, I found that on the internet.
Okay, that's weird. When I copied and pasted it, like part of the URL is not in highlight. And
Where
when
did I just
you tried again?